Good afternoon, everybody. Is everybody excited to be here today? I can see the bright faces before me, so I'm so excited to be here. My name is Lennox Wasara. I'm thrilled to be your host this afternoon. It's been a wonderful week with lots of rain, and I'm glad that there's been a sense of calm in the last couple of days. So we are certainly at the right place. I know a lot of people talk about not being at the right place, not being at the right place, being at the right place at the wrong time. But I can tell you, you are at the right place at the right time. So you're most welcome here. But before we get the program started, I would like to observe a few protocols and just to extend my warm greetings to the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Pretoria, Professor Francis Peterson, who's here with us. I also want to welcome the members of the executive at the University of Pretoria who are here, and members of the Economic and Management Science faculty, EMS faculty. I see some of the students are also here, so it's good to see them. And also the Albert Lutuli Leadership Institute in particular. So it's great to have all the colleagues here and all the representatives that are also here. We have people joining us online as well. We are streaming live through our YouTube channel, so we're very excited about that. If you are online, you're welcome to share your comments and ask some questions as well on that online platform. We'll be happy to connect with you and probably ask some of those questions to our panel a little bit later when we get to that point. But we have the president of the SDSN, who is also joining us today virtually. That's Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who's going to be sharing a few words a little bit later. And of course, remember that we're now in that social media era. So happy to see there's a nice blend of the young people here as well represented. So we're welcome to take pictures today and tag us on social media. We'll be happy to see some of your posts there as well. Always looking forward to seeing those, and the hashtags as well. We'll be excited to see you hashtag our SDSN Youth SA launch. So we're very excited about that. So on my way here, I was thinking about this event, and I realized that it's a movement. We're not here because we have to be here. You're here because you want to be here. Firstly, by the name tag that you got when you walked in. So that's the first proof of the fact that you want to be here. And if you're also online, you are there because you've joined and you've made the time for it. But movements have a few things in common. I think the first thing that a movement has is that somebody inspires a movement, and somebody inspires people to act, and you've been inspired somehow, in some way, to be part of this movement. And also movements are also exciting for the fact that they're also built. So movements don't just happen by chance or randomly happen coincidentally, or like playing the lotto that, you put in a few numbers and you get lucky somehow and you win. But we're here because somebody's building something in the background, and you're also part of what we're building. And the last thing that movements have in common is the fact that they certainly, mostly importantly, are sustainable. So what we're building now is the foundation that will sustain us for the long term and the time to come. So you can give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. All right, so we get the program started, we get the show started. I would like to welcome our very first speaker, who will welcome all of you as well as welcome the Vice Chancellor. Allow me to welcome Ms. Priscilla Mole, who is a passionate change maker, who is dedicated to building a more inclusive and sustainable world. With a strong background in community development and social impact, she designs programs that uplift communities and also empower individuals. It's always important to go with the community with you, and also to go with the individual, because some people get lost in the collective that you want to make sure the individual is also catered for. So that's incredible work that you're doing so far. And she's also currently pursuing her PhD at the Albert Lutuli Leadership Institute, where she is focusing on research on developing sustainability leaders. So to hear more about her work and also to hear more about what she's doing, I will call her forward, and please do give her a warm welcome.
All right. Stay. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Pretoria and Chair of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, esteemed members of the Local Leadership Council in attendance here and virtually, distinguished panelists, representatives from SDSN member institutions, colleagues, and students, good afternoon. It is my profound honor to stand before you today to introduce an initiative shaping the future of our planet, the Sustainable Solutions Network, South Africa. We live in a world of unprecedented challenges: climate change, inequality, environmental degradation, and economic instability. Addressing these crises requires more than just ideas. It requires actionable, scalable, and collaborative solutions. This is the very essence of SDSN. Established in 2012 under the leadership of renowned economist Professor Jeffrey Sachs and supported by the United Nations, the SDSN was founded with a clear mission: to mobilize global expertise in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. But SDN is more than just an organization. It's a movement. It unites universities, research institutions, businesses, governments, and civil society to develop and implement solutions that address our most pressing challenges. With networks in over 50 countries, SDSN operates at the critical intersection of science, policy, and real-world impact. So why does SDSN matter? We all know the 17 SDGs, ambitious targets set by the UN to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all by 2030. Yet goals alone are not enough. The real challenge lies in implementation. While the SDGs are universal, SDSN South Africa is committed to localizing solutions, which means adapting them to our unique cultural, economic, and environmental contexts. We also recognize that no single institution can solve these challenges alone. This is why SDSN fosters public-private partnerships, bringing together NGOs, academia, and the private sector to drive meaningful change. Allow me to highlight a few of SDSN's transformative initiatives. The SDG Index and Dashboards, which are the world's first tool to track countries' progress on the SDGs, holding leaders accountable and guiding policy decisions. The SDG Transformation Center is a hub for science-based policy tools, peer-to-peer learning, and long-term strategies for sustainable development. The Food, Agriculture, Biodiversity, Land Use, and Energy, referred to as FABLE Pathways, is a collaborative research initiative across 22 countries, assessing how we can achieve food security, climate mitigation, biodiversity conservation, and water quality by 2030 and 2050. And of course, SDSN Youth, the reason we are here today, empowering young leaders to develop innovative solutions and accelerate progress towards the SDGs. At SDSN South Africa, we're committed to leveraging expertise to contribute to research, innovation, and best practice. We are also committed to strengthening partnerships by collaborating with businesses, governments, and NGOs to implement projects aligned with the SDGs and Agenda 2063. As the network manager for SDSN South Africa, I extend an open invitation to all of you. Let us engage, collaborate, and drive change together. This is not just about doing good. It's about future-proofing our economies, societies, and planet. The clock is ticking. With only 6 years left until 2030, we need urgency, collaboration, and bold leadership. In the words of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the SDGs are our roadmap to a better future, but we need everyone on board. SDSN is that vehicle for change, a global brain trust, a catalyst for innovation, and above all, a reminder that solutions are within reach if we work together. None of this would be possible without visionary leadership. It is now my privilege to introduce a distinguished leader in South African higher education, a scholar, a strategist, and a driving force behind sustainable development. He has served as Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of the Free State, Deputy Vice Chancellor at the University of Cape Town, and now leads the University of Pretoria with excellence. He holds a PhD in engineering from Stellenbosch University and has contributed to the global discourse on higher education and research through his speaking engagements worldwide. He's the chairperson of the Board of Directors of University South Africa, USAF, and chair of SDSN South Africa. Please join me in welcoming Professor Francis Peterson to the podium.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And let me also say good afternoon to all of you here in the venue at Future Africa, but also those that are watching this event through the virtual platform. It is indeed a privilege to welcome you all to the official launch of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Youth South Africa. An important milestone, not only for the SDN network, but for the role of youth in shaping a sustainable future for our country, for our continent, but also for the world. But before I want to share my thoughts with you, I also would just like to acknowledge the presence of a few distinguished guests and partners. First of all, the SDSN South Africa leadership, Ms. Priscilla Morley, the SDSN local leadership council members, Professor Derek de Jong, Dr. Oni Nwaneri, and Dr. Thandi Mgwebi, the 16 SDSN member institutions, Mr. Michael Kosjoshian from the SDSN Youth Network in Kenya, panelists from Columba Leadership, the Trevor Noah Foundation, the UN Resident Coordinator's Office in South Africa, and the SDSN South Africa. Young entrepreneurs and student leaders, I think it's all around the youth today. So, and all of you are here because, as Lennox have mentioned right in the beginning, that we are here because we believe in the potential of youth to lead meaningful change. I also would like to extend a warm welcome to those joining us from different sectors. And one of the key areas, in fact, this is an ideal space to have this discussion, that the University of Pretoria is focusing on is a transdisciplinary approach in everything that we do. And therefore, the other sectors outside of higher education is for us as important as the higher education sector itself. So members from government, from civil society, academia, but also from business, welcome to you all. Your presence this afternoon signals something crucial, that we can no longer speak of sustainable development without actively including youth at the heart of the conversation. And I think that's very, very important. So this launch comes at a time when the world is really at an inflection point, where climate disruptions are intensifying. And earlier this afternoon, I was talking to some of the delegates, just looking at the weather patterns that we have seen in South Africa, but also on the continent and other parts of the world. We also have economic inequality that continues to widen, youth unemployment that remains unacceptably high, not only in South Africa, but also across Africa. And yet, at the same time, we are witnessing something remarkable, a surge in youth-led activism, innovation, and purpose-driven entrepreneurship that is reshaping the way we respond to these challenges. So the establishment of the SDSN Youth South Africa is therefore not just for me and for all of us, hopefully, a program launch. It is an affirmation of the conviction that young people are not passive beneficiaries of development, but they are truly agents of it. This initiative could not have found a more fitting home than at the Albert Luthuli Leadership Institute, based in the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences here at the University of Pretoria. The Institute focuses on ethical, value-based leadership and sustainable development, provides the ideal foundation for this network. As part of the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences, one of the largest and most diverse faculties here at the University of Pretoria, it places the youth chapter at the intersection of research, policy, and economic impact. So today's event takes place here at Future Africa, a space designed to support transformative research, research that is based on transdisciplinary collaboration across the continent, but also across the world. And we want to build out that concept of transdisciplinary interaction and research and collaboration amongst scholars, amongst developments, amongst scientists across the continent and academia in South Africa and obviously specifically UP, but also across the world. And we would like that meeting point for scientists and minds to come together, connecting knowledge on Africa, for Africa, and the world. It is here where we actively bring diverse minds such as scientists, social thinkers, students, and community leaders to explore solutions that are contextually relevant, ethically grounded, and globally connected. So as part of this mission, the SDSN Youth South Africa will not only contribute to the realization of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, but it will also align itself with the Africa Union's Agenda 2063. So by embedding both local and continental frameworks into these activities, the network affirms its role, advancing inclusive, youth-led solutions for Africa's future. We often talk about the youth dividend that the Africa continent has, and to what extent do we advance that and do we capitalize on that? That is often a question. So the Sustainable Development Goals represent a comprehensive framework for tackling the world's most pressing challenges, but they also are ambitious, and progress, frankly, of those implementation and reaching those goals are very uneven. So across many countries, the targets outlined in the Sustainable Development Goals remain just that. It remains targets. We have seen how systemic barriers, policy inertia, and institutional limitations can delay or even dilute implementation. So this is where the role, I believe, of the youth becomes so vital. Because young people approach these challenges differently. They are not weighed down by the legacy of how things have always been done. They think differently. And hopefully, and I do think they do, they think and act also urgently. They collaborate across traditional divides. And crucially, they care. And we as universities, and I certainly have picked that up in our student body, where we obviously work with young people, that the whole concept of social responsiveness, the concept of care, is I would probably call that very much inherent value in this generation that we engage with. So they are deeply invested in the future because they have the most at stake. So at the University of Pretoria, we have seen this firsthand from our student-led sustainability forums to campus innovation challenges, where young people design real-world solutions to community-based issues. And we see it in the enthusiasm with which students engage in topics like climate change, topics like the circular economy, mental health advocacy, and gender equity. So these are not just academic interests, they are real social commitments. As chair of the SDSN South Africa, I believe that universities have a critical responsibility to enable, but also to amplify youth leadership in sustainability. This means going beyond providing technical knowledge. It means equipping young people with the capabilities, very importantly the networks and platforms to transform knowledge into action. And I often say that universities are in the business of generating new knowledge, also of ensuring that we produce graduates for society. But we also are very important to take the two businesses that we engage with, and that is teaching and learning, which often yield graduates at the end of the day, and research and innovation that produce the new knowledge and new products and new processes. And the other responsibility is to ensure that that teaching and learning and that research create outcomes that benefit society, that transform lives. Because otherwise, we should ask the question, why are we doing teaching and learning and why are we doing research? And that conversion of transforming the knowledge into action is a crucial component. And I think that is what our youth more and more ask from us as universities, but also as other institutions of learning and technology development. So we must intentionally foster environments where youth agency is encouraged, where youth agency is supported, where students are not only taught about the Sustainable Development Goals, but are actively involved in shaping the very policies, the research agendas, and the community initiatives that gives life to these goals. At the University of Pretoria, this is not just an aspirational goal. It is already being realized through numerous concrete initiatives that we practice in our mandate of teaching and learning and research. The solar laboratory within the Department of Mechanical and Aeronautical Engineering provides hands-on training and research opportunities in solar photovoltaic technologies. The lab not only supports undergraduate and postgraduate learning, but it also enables students to test solar photovoltaic systems under realistic conditions, bridging theoretical knowledge with practical application. And that specific initiative supports the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which ensures access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. And it also helps to build technical capacity amongst future engineers and sustainability practitioners. The other example is in collaboration with the Center of Advancement of Sustainable Higher Education Futures, the University of Pretoria's Enterprise Division runs the Ready for Work program, which equips rural youth with essential skills, including communication, critical thinking, financial literacy, but also career planning. And this initiative enhances employability and really align Sustainable Development Goals number 4 and actually number 8, which respectively address quality education as well as decent work and economic growth. So these are just 2 of many more examples which show that empowering the youth is not limited to offering degrees or classroom instruction. It is about enabling young people to see themselves as problem solvers and agents of transformation within their communities. It is about mentorship, exposure to real-world challenges, interdisciplinary collaboration, and the institutional willingness to provide space for experimentation, but also the iteration where you can make mistakes and then come back and try to learn from it and improve on it. So ultimately, the role of universities must evolve from being centers of instruction to become enablers of agency. When we do that, we are not only preparing graduates, we actually are cultivating change makers. To understand the potential impact of the SDSN Youth South Africa, we must view it within the context of both national and continental sustainability imperatives. South Africa, and Africa more broadly, faces a dual challenge: the need to address persistent developmental backlogs while simultaneously navigating the demands of climate resilience, digital transformation, and global competitiveness. And just if we look at digital transformation and digital technologies, that in itself can create even a further divide if we don't manage and navigate that very responsibly. The African Union's Agenda 2063, alongside the Global 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, provides a blueprint for inclusive growth, industrialization, environmental stewardship, and also good governance. But for these frameworks to translate into real-world outcomes, we need grounded, community-based, and youth-led implementation models. The South African National Development Plan explicitly calls for the creation of a capable and active citizenry that participate in development processes. Our climate change bill, our green hydrogen strategy, and just energy transition investment plan all require youth engagement, not only as beneficiaries, but also as co-creators of solution. And then again, even if you look at the just energy transition investment plan, we often talk about the technical solutions that we provide in terms of the energy transition. But I often always emphasize that there's a word in front of the energy transition, which is called just. And therefore, the way that we look at the solution need to be out of a different angle. And that is, to what extent is it the just energy transition? And again, there is where we want to see more youth-led solutions. Moreover, the pressing issues our country faces, youth unemployment, education inequality, food insecurity, and urban sustainability are deeply interwoven with the SDGs. So the SDSN Youth South Africa can anchor these challenges within a developmental narrative that is youth-driven, that is socially conscious, and is also future-facing. But we must also embrace the power of collaboration. As I think it was Priscilla that mentioned earlier, that no single institution or even a single economic sector can solve sustainability puzzles, if I use the word puzzles in inverted commas, alone. This is why networks like the SDSN network are so important. They bring together actors from government, from universities, civil society, and the private sector to co-create solutions. So it's not only about collaboration, but to come and think about solutions together. Another key role for institutions like ours is to support the evidence base for youth-led development. Good intentions must be matched by good data, sound methodologies, and measurable impact. So here at the University of Pretoria, our approach to innovation is always grounded in evidence and relevance. Of course, we cannot speak about youth and sustainability in South Africa without acknowledging the unique challenges we face. And I've already talked about the youth unemployment, but we also have underfunded public services. Load shedding, I think that is now almost to an end. I hope so. Climate vulnerabilities, and also persistent inequality. But these are structural issues. Although structural, they are not immovable. So through coordinated, youth-driven efforts, we have the opportunity to reframe these challenges as entry points for new solutions. Whether it's through renewable energy startups, regenerative agriculture, or social enterprises addressing waste management, young South Africans are already stepping into this space. What they need is institutional support, policy alignment, and very importantly, freedom to fail and to try again. Our students are just not preparing for jobs, they are also preparing to shape the future. And that is why platforms like the SDSN Youth South Africa are vital. They give young people a framework, a community, and also a sense of purpose beyond the classroom. So this launch, for me, is really the beginning of a journey. And while we celebrate today, we must always look ahead. I want to challenge the SDSN Youth South Africa to be bold in its vision, to be inclusive in its approach, and to be relentless in its commitment to impact. You have our support as SDSN South Africa, and also as the University of Pretoria. We are committed to walking this journey with you, not as patrons, but as partners. And as we prepare to listen to other speakers this afternoon, from fellow SDSN networks to young entrepreneurs and thought leaders, I invite you to consider the significance of this moment. Let us commit not only to listening to the youth, but also to learn from them, standing with them, and creating the institutional spaces for their leadership to thrive. And I believe in doing so, we don't just move the Sustainable Development Goals forward, but we build the foundation of a more inclusive and resilient future. Let us make today matter with intention, with action, but very importantly, with urgency. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Fons Peterson, for a description of a world that seems to be quite fragile. It has as many opportunities as threats, and at the heart of it is the young people who need to take their agency with a sense of urgency to make an impact. And thank you for those remarks. I would like to move on to our next speaker. He will be joining us virtually for this conversation. Something very interesting, though, is that he's one of the world's most respected voices on sustainable development, that being Professor Jeffrey Sachs. He is the president of the SDSN and a university professor at Columbia University. Professor Sachs has advised multiple UN Secretaries General and continues to inspire global action through his work on the SDGs. And very interesting is that his work is gotten him 42 honorary doctorates. Now, I don't know if that's a world record, but I think I'll be keen to find out from him if that is a world record, because that is really phenomenal. He also completed most of his qualifications at Harvard University, where he's also been a professor there for over 20 years. So we're looking forward to learning more from his insights, and perhaps he might give us that secret answer as to if that is the Guinness Book record of the most honorary doctorates. So without further ado, please welcome Professor Sachs. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much. I have a great view of the room from above, so I can see all of you, kind of the backs of your heads, but I see that it's a packed room of people eager to make a difference, and I'm so grateful and so thankful to hear the words of Vice Chancellor Peterson. Very eloquent and extremely important commitments of the university to sustainable development and to empowering the students to take the lead on the sustainable development goals. And I greet you. I'm in Delhi today, so I've been meeting with the leaders in India in the last couple of days, and very much feeling the energy of a country that's on the move. India has been achieving economic growth of around 7% per year. This has been going on for many years. This morning, I happened to have a meeting with a fellow chemical engineer. I believe Professor Peterson is a chemical engineer, and I met an Indian chemical engineer filled with wonderful ideas about the new technologies that India can develop in future years that will both empower sustainability and propel India's economic growth. And this visit in these 2 days follows a visit last week for about 10 days in China. China, as you know, has been achieving remarkable economic progress for 40 years, really at a rate perhaps around 10% per year of economic growth, meaning a doubling of China's economy every 7 years or so, and that has been going on through 5 doublings. So more than a 30-time increase in the size of China's GDP. I mention all of this because I think Africa's next. That's my belief, not only my hope, but it's actually my firm belief that just as China began its economic takeoff in 1980, and India around 20 years later, for various historical and political reasons, around 2000, I think Africa is now headed for decades of very rapid economic development, and that Africa will experience the kind of rapid push and leapfrogging of technologies, of building physical infrastructure, and of a rapid rise of living standards of the kind that China and India have modeled. And indeed, what China and India have accomplished, I think, also gives some roadmap for Africa's development as well. What makes me so optimistic, especially in this weird time when the United States is led by a kind of I can't use in polite company all the words I would like to use, but a little bit strange leadership, very unpredictable, hostile to the rest of the world, destructive of American values, actually. Why am I optimistic? I'm optimistic because I think that the emerging economies of this world get it. They understand that through uh, innovation, by adopting the new technologies, by embracing renewable energy, embracing uh, artificial intelligence, embracing all the advantages of digital technologies more generally, there is the real opportunity for leapfrogging and a real opportunity for narrowing the economic gaps between rich and poor. I'm looking at the room that epitomizes how to accomplish this. It is through advanced education, through technical skills, through the capacity to bring these new technologies to bear across society, to provide novel solutions that are well adapted to local conditions that really make a huge difference. And of course, young people, not only as a nice thing to say, but as a reality, are central to this because it's you guys, young people, not old guys like me, that understand the new technologies, that understand how to deploy them, and that are going to be the ones creating the startups and the new solutions to make them happen. In China last week, I was in a place called Shenzhen, which is a remarkable city that is on the mainland of China, just opposite Hong Kong. And Shenzhen was a little farm community, actually, 50 years ago. Estimated population then around 25,000 people in rural activities. Today, Shenzhen is really the Silicon Valley of China. It is a metropolis of more than 25 million people. It has increased 1,000-fold in population from 25,000 to 25 million. It's home to the great companies like BYD and ZTE and Huawei. And I visited some of the robotics companies, and I also met with a number of the industrialists. Now, the point I want to make is they were all super young, super hungry for innovation, working incredibly hard and with great creativity to make the inventions for the coming years. And it was a group of young people who made DeepSeek. They are hearing me. Can you hear me? Yes, yeah.
You're not hearing him, she won't know.
Okay. So it was a young group that made DeepSeek, which overturned the entire AI community in Silicon Valley by showing here's a low-cost way to doing what you guys are spending tens of billions of dollars on. And so it is really not a cliche. It is literally the case that the solutions are going to be coming out of University of Pretoria. They're going to be coming out of young people with new startups. They're going to be coming out of you with the training, the insight, and the drive to provide solutions for your society. Africa as a whole will boom as a result of this, in my view. Of course, Africa will be the youngest place in the world. Every other place will be getting gray hair, while Africa will have the dominant young population in the world. And what makes me excited is that after a very long period of startup and difficulty, Africa really is beginning to act like a true union. It's beginning to act like a true continental scale market. It's beginning to invest, as they used to say even in the colonial days, Cape to Cairo. It is creating an infrastructure now that stretches across the 55. Could you hold for 1 second? Who is it?
Miriam, we're waiting.
It's not, I'm not on with Miriam. I'm on with the Africans.
Oh.
She has to wait a moment. Sorry, I apologize. So finally, we're seeing the unity of Africa take hold. And with that comes scale. With that comes a market of 1.4 billion people, the same size as China, the same size as India. And with the youth and with the training, with the determination, with the support of great university leaders like your Vice Chancellor, to have this historic breakthrough in our time. Finally, let me say that in between China and India, I was at the Vatican a few days ago, also for a gathering of youth from around the world that came to the Vatican for a Vatican Youth Day. And it was actually 2 days of pure exhilaration. So many projects, so much inspiring energy, so much determination, so many insights. I left floating with all the possibilities that young people are bringing to the solutions. So let me thank you for this launch today. Let me thank you for all that you are doing. I am privileged to lead the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. Please know how committed we are to support you. Come to us with ideas, with the areas where you would like to see initiatives, where our global network can help the Africa network in any way. Tell us the ideas. We're here to help you. We applaud your leadership. Thank you for having me today. I'm most grateful and so deeply impressed by what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Jeffrey Sachs. What a interesting and very conversational chat you had with us. Full of optimism, full of life, and also just, I guess, a reminder that, sometimes things may seem above our heads, but they're certainly reachable. So we'll certainly be taking that moving forward. Moving on to more conversation, we're going to have a panel discussion in a moment. I would like to call upon the panelists that will be joining me for the panel discussion. We'll start off with Ms. Marubeni Muswere, who's the Coordination Officer at the United Nations South Africa. If you can come forward and find your seat here in the front. As she comes forward, please give her a round of applause. Just a little bit about some of her work, right? So she's a policy expert and youth advocate at the United Nations in South Africa. Her work focuses on ensuring that young people's voices are heard, and we've heard a lot about that so far today, particularly in the national space as well as the global development agendas, which is very important. And she also leads key youth consultations and coordinated cross-sector initiatives to make youth inclusion a reality. So it's good to have you on the panel, and we look forward to some of your insights as we carry on with our conversation. Up next, I'd like to call upon Ms. Maleboho Modise. She's a Columbia Leadership Academy alumna and sustainability consultant. So please come forward and join me in the front. She is a strategy and sustainability consultant, helping shape inclusive policies and programs across the African continent, with a master's in UN and diplomatic studies, with a focus in integrating sustainability into youth entrepreneurship. We've heard quite a lot about entrepreneurship today so far, so we're looking forward to hear what you'll say about that. And also sustainability into economic development, which has also been quite a topical conversation so far. And she also believes that every individual is a creative, and believes that they are certainly going to be important in driving the mission to build a more equitable world. So happy to have you on the panel. Moving on to our next panelist, allow me to welcome Ms. Sianda Kaba, who is the programs manager at the Trevor Noah Foundation, focuses primarily on primary and high school. So please give a round of applause. A lot of people are asking if you have a lot of jokes for us today, but no pressure. So she's a seasoned development practitioner with a heart for young people, especially young women. With over a decade of experience, she leads impactful programs at the Trevor Noah Foundation, helping schools certainly become more thriving spaces for learners. And also her approach combines education, infrastructure, data, and empowerment to create lasting change. So welcome to the panel. Last but certainly not least in any way, I was just calling them up randomly, right, is Mr. Kamagano Setono, who is the Assistant Network Manager at SDSN SA and Incoming Coordinator at SDSN SA Youth. I'm sure many of the students will be familiar with him. Is it true? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And a little bit about his work. He's currently running that program here at the University of Pretoria. And I would like to kick off by asking some personal questions in terms of like your specific work. So before we get to that, I just want to explain a little bit about how we will flow today. We will firstly hear maybe for about 5 minutes from each panelist, just about your work and the work that you're doing. Kamagano, maybe we can start with you and then we'll pass the mic down over the side and then I'll find a seat right at the end. And then to our online audience, you're more than welcome to share some of your comments and questions on the chat on YouTube. I will be tracking those, so if we do have time, I'll certainly be asking our panelists those questions. So over to the panel we go.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. As introduced, my name is Kamagano Setono. I work with Priscilla Moli at the Sustainable Development Solutions Network South Africa. I am the Assistant Network Manager alongside her. And primarily, as Priscilla has introduced the network earlier, we are a knowledge generation institution. Where we work with knowledge generation institutions in South Africa, as well as think tanks and other organizations across South Africa that focus on bringing solutions, tangible solutions, and also cutting-edge research touching on the Sustainable Development Goals. Based in South Africa, we also incorporate the South Africa's National Development Plan into our frameworks, as well as the African Agenda 2063. So that is basically what I do in a nutshell, and I'm hoping to work with young people in the room and also across South Africa in achieving the SDGs through the SDSN Youth South Africa. Thanks.
I like how you did that. Good afternoon, everyone. I should probably lead with, we don't write any of our chairman's jokes. So please, I don't have any good jokes for you as well. As introduced, my name is Sianda Kaba, Programs Manager for Trevor Noah Foundation. And the Trevor Noah Foundation, you know, our vision is we believe that through education, the youth can build, dream, and do the impossible. And how we aim to achieve that, our mission looks at building global partnerships as well as local partnerships that will catapult youth, in-school youth and out-of-school youth, in innovation and education development programs that support dreaming, that support believing, and that ultimately we want to level the playing field, and we want to ensure equitable access to quality education. And how we do that, as you so mentioned, is we have a varying range of interventions within schools, and actually one of our partners is in the room, Columba as well, and we have a values-based leadership program with our secondary schools. We have a career guidance program, we have a Kulafunda program or Kulafunda literacy program in partnership with Nalibali, and we have a infrastructure program called Faranani Infrastructure Program or Project, and that project is an out-of-school youth where we provide a second chance to the youth that are 18 to 35, not in education, not in employment, and not in training. And the idea is to have, or rather cultivate community ownership through this youth development program. And we train in built and civil engineering skills, and they are able to, with those skill set, become new venture creators, or entrepreneurs in the building and civil. And we have some magnificent success stories from that. And I think one of the things I also want to share is we've recently announced the Kulani Nati Innovation Fund. And that's another way where through the work that we do, we would like to see the youth be pushed into positions of sustainability as well as leadership, because those are integral to curriculums and they're not add-ons. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Malibucho Modise. I'm a sustainability consultant, and I'm also a Columba Leadership alumna. So that means that I have been a part of their amazing program that specifically targets youth within the high school phase. And then from there on, they have expanded what they do to be able to create kind of an ecosystem of youth development across how they understand youth, engage with them, whether it's through tertiary and all the way to giving work experience. So much of my work as a consultant, I'm a founder of my own research and development firm. So we provide advisory and strategic solutions to NGOs, public and private investment firms, and other corporate spaces where we essentially try to promote and industrialize data points like youth demographics. So understanding the nuances, the dynamics that come with either topics like Gen Z and how they relate to corporate spaces, and essentially how various institutions can create sustainable institutional practices and principles by just allowing youth to have platforms to be able to engage and scale their initiatives. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's what I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marubini Mushede, as mentioned. I am a coordination officer within the United Nations Resident Coordinator's Office. I'll explain what the Resident Coordinator's Office is, because I think a lot of people are not familiar with the agency. So there are 17 resident UN agencies in the country, and the Resident Coordinator's Office came about when the Secretary General had the initiative to have UN reform. So how do we have a more coordinated UN system within countries, avoid duplication of efforts, ensure that we're leveraging and having synergy across the different agencies within a country. So that's where the Resident Coordinator's Office comes about, and that is the office that I sit in, and I currently work around how do we coordinate efforts around the different agencies for the Sustainable Development Goals. And there's a key interest that I have, also being young, but around youth development in the country and ensuring that young people are entrusted and are leading efforts in the space of development. So that's my interest. I support something called the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, which is essentially how we partner with stakeholders in society. And that's how we think of ourselves as a key partner to the government of the day. And so that's essentially what I do, and I'm really excited to be here, and I don't take it lightly that the event organizers brought me here, so I really am looking forward to the discussion today. Thank you.
Perhaps I'll start on the side. Okay, can you hear me? Oh, there we go. I don't know what's going on with my mic, but we're going to start more to my immediate left. Kamahano, you are essentially doing your PhD in leadership, and a big part of your work is really around empowering the young people. I've had the honor of getting to know you a little bit over the last few weeks, so to speak, and also learning that your SDSN work, SA work here with the youth is quite inspiring. So what is your vision for the movement, and also how do you want to see that play out to the youth in South Africa?
All right. Well, for me, first of all, the SDSN SA should be a force in equipping young people and empowering young people. And also something that we need to note is that young people need to be part of discussions. That if you want young people to be decision makers or to influence policy, they have to be part of conversations. Not only as, as a tokenistic approach, but to really hear what they say. Also, young people need to be heard, and the network is also going to be a platform where we hear the views and the aspirations of young people. Knowing that the SDGs it's a development space, or it's a community-based space, we need to also remind young people why they do what they do, what drives their passion, why are they focused, or why do they want to see their communities developed? Because the why is very important in doing the right things. If the motives of young people are not properly structured, then even the means of the work that they do will reflect their motive. So it is to give young people the platform where they can rediscover their why they contribute to their communities. And one thing also is to tell young people and to encourage them that there are challenges, what they see around them in their communities, that is important in spearheading and being an igniting fire to do what they do. That shouldn't be something that discourages them, but that should be something that pushes them forward. Also, we know that, youth work is really fragmented across different sectors. So SDSN as well is to play that bridge where we connect academic institutions, we connect government institutions as well as civil societies and the private sector as well into board. Because our global problems are, complex, and one entity cannot solve them. So it will require partnerships and collaboration to bring forth solutions. So SDSN Youth South Africa should be or will be the platform where we come together as different sectors, sit at the table, and also speak about these issues and the solutions that will be, tailored to the problem. Because one thing is about young people, we'll tell them what the solution is without hearing them give us the problem. So the solution itself is not tailored to their problems, but because we think that is the solution, because we think it, but that should not be the case. Young people should outline what their concerns are, and that the solution should be tailor-made and fit directly to the problems that they propose. Also, to not bring solutions on their behalf. As we know, young people are authentic people. Young people have the energy, and also young people are innovative. They, in their capacity, are able to bring solutions to their own problems. It requires then young people, or even the other generations, to listen and to be aware of what young people are saying, and also to support them with resources, with mentorship, with support, is to how to make their solutions a materialistic thing.
Yeah, that's good. Taking the young people with you. I like that. Sianda, I want to bring you to the conversation just because I think the first time I heard a conversation around sustainability was probably in varsity, and you're already taking that to primary schools and high schools. So what are you learning there?
Can I say he stole my answer?
You read your mind.
what we are learning again is what he's sharing now. Buy-in from the youth is very important. I think it's, gone are the days where we're bringing things to the youth and we're hoping that they just adopt them and run with them. I think it's very important that the voice of the youth is well considered. One of the things we're learning is the youth are talented. It's such an untapped into talent pool, and often people think this is a lot of energy, and like you said, if we don't use it properly, it's misdirected, right? But once we start bringing the youth into the conversation, we're learning that they are innovators of their own challenges. I'll give you an example. One of the models that we're implementing is called a self-help group. And the structure of the self-help group is that you don't have more than 15 members in a group, and they are brought together on the basis of affinity, but also a shared common goal, that there's a challenge that they want to address. And we've been workshopping with youth in Ivory Park, and we workshop and we sit and we hear from them, and we take these notes and we put it on a scorecard and we make it look fancy. But at the end of the day, it's solutions that came from the youth, and they're giving us the direction that they're saying there are things that we are facing: unemployment, child-headed households, psychosocial challenges, and it's great that you will bring an organization in, but hear us out as well. And from that, youth have led their own initiatives, substance abuse initiatives, mental wellness initiatives, even something as small as just changing the leadership culture in the school, right? They have been empowered to do that because we listened. We sat and we heard, and then with the partners that we work with, we said, okay, this is what the youth are saying, and how do we support them? How do we get behind them? How do we resource them? How do we bring them what they need so that they can take this challenge and make it a solution? And as soon as that happens, the excitement, that energy, that talent is used in the right way, and we no longer have to be considering youth energy as a lot, but nothing can be done with it. Do you know what I mean? So that's just one way that we've learned from the youth, that using their talents, using their thoughts and bringing them along can go a long way.
She's saying that they are misunderstood, and maybe communicating to us that, everybody maybe take time to understand us.
I think they're not, I don't want to say misunderstood. I just don't think we sometimes stop and listen.
Right.
There's this thing where, and we must acknowledge that there is a generation that will leave us, and the generation that stays behind is the youth. And often we've been hearing from the generation that's been here that this is the way things are done, and this is the way it looks like, and this is the form, right? And so if we don't tap into what the youth is saying, it's not that, we're going to miss it. And that's what we're saying. It's not that I think you get me, right? Yeah. You get me.
Well, I just want to ask you a question just around, you come through a very successful academy, and with the success, in business we speak about how do we replicate that in a different market, or we want to replicate that in a different context. So how do we actually replicate that? How have you gone about trying to replicate your experience to pass that baton forward?
Okay, I think that's a very good question. So I think Columba has done an excellent job at actually creating a replicable model that's within its niche market within youth sustainable development. And the nice thing, or a number one indicator of a sustainable initiative, campaign, or program is its ability to be replicable at a different scale. So what Columba has amazingly done is that this model has been applicable across all of the provinces, across different youth demographics, backgrounds. So I think making initiatives or efforts towards youth sustainability replicable is one, ensuring that we actually, there's a saying in development where, you have to fall in love with the problem more than you love the solution. So more so, and also latching on to your previous points about how youth is being engaged, there are specific dynamics where, for example, within the corporate space as a consultant, I've seen youth being, and I'll say accused very likely, accused of being volatile, having a freelance mindset, and only it's because we are entrepreneurs, we are creators at heart, and that's why we have been able to create things like a creators economy in today's world. So the replicability of any kind of program or initiative that aims to include youth must be fully able to dissect what the demographic looks like. For example, we are digitally native, but at the same time in corporate spaces, we have older generations who are saying that they have a hard time engaging us in corporate spaces that allow for conducive working environments. We also have a dynamic again where we are perceived to be again volatile, very much into different things all at the same time. So I think let's understand and dissect what kind of youth we're dealing with, and also youth. Today's youth is very much socially conscious. For example, I'm Gen Z, and because I'm Gen Z, I'm known to be volatile, and I quit my job recently only because there was no social impact associated to it. Today's youth wants to be associated with work that is sustainable, that actually impacts the collective that is either within their reach or by virtue of exposure, and that's the importance of academic or academy programs that Columba brings. So sustainability or replicability in any program needs to be able to understand and dissect the demographic well enough so you can scale it across different provinces and different backgrounds. Yeah.
That's very good. Marubini, your work has to do with the UN, and I think the youth sometimes might feel as though they're not really active participants in solving those developmental solutions. So what can be done to actually take them on that journey to achieve co-creation?
Thank you. That's also a good question. There's still a long way for us to go. I think we've started, and the processes have included consultations mostly, where when there's a high-level engagement, or perhaps some of you might have heard of some of the big summits that happen annually, there are processes that happen in country where young people are consulted to give inputs into that process. Now, what needs to go beyond that is how we figure out a structure to ensure that the inputs that are given at some of these consultations go beyond that event, that engagement, so that young people in the country don't feel like it's an extractive relationship where we come in, we get your insights, and then we leave. But we're also not tracking how those consultations or inputs then lead to certain outcomes. And I think that's now the missing gap, and I'm hoping SDSN will come in with their expertise with this platform to figure out how do we ensure that some of the consultations that we run with young people move beyond that moment to then become sustainable. Another way in which we engage young people is through youth advisory panels. You might have heard of some of them. There are UN agencies that engage young people through this structure. So for example, UNFPA has a youth advisory panel, and of course that's specific, and it's a small number of young people, and I think there's ways in which we can broaden it to ensure there's access. Another thing, as some of the other panelists were discussing, is I think thinking around the intersectionality of youth issues. Because I think with agency mandates, sometimes the focus is employment, children, health, and sometimes we miss the intersectionality of issues, and that's where we're seeing young people saying, we are not heard because you don't understand the various ways in which my lived experience then needs to be addressed by a systemic change, because that's essentially what then governments are in place to do, to address some of the systemic solutions that are in place. So I'm hoping that we can move beyond consultations to figure out how we have co-governance processes where young people are able to feel entrusted enough to not only sit in those decision-making bodies, but then actually direct the course of how some of these institutions, multilateral systems are directing their agenda in the country, because ultimately we're the ones who are going to have to live with some of these decisions. So yeah, those are my 2 cents. Thanks.
Way more than 2 cents. So I want to bring the conversation to Kamahano. We're listening now, and I'm picking up that there's certainly gaps, right, in youth participation. So what is a network going to do to address those gaps? I know it's a difficult question, but I think maybe some of the smaller steps you want to take to address those gaps?
Well, I think the panelists also have outlined the gaps that we have or that are present amongst young people. One is that we hear, or they hear us, and we do not know the progress of the kind of insights we have shared. Is it been taken serious? Is it part of policy, or it was an engagement that, we have to tick boxes that you have heard young people, and that's it. So that is also one of the gaps that we see. Also, education. It's also a very huge gap, especially in townships as well. And I believe also, I'm thinking, these engagements happen at a high level, institutions, universities. What about young people who are not at university level? Are they heard? Do these organizations or do institutions go into townships and hear what young people have to say? So we see that for them to be heard, they have to be a specific institution or at a specific kind of field. So that is also a gap that we also see, is to be a organization or a network that promote going into townships, hearing what young people who are outside of education and employment, what do they have to say? Also, what we see is lack of resources from young people, that young people have ideas, young people have innovative solutions, but they do not have enough resources to materialize their ideas. So this also is a challenge and a gap that we see, and as a network, we would, as Priscilla would speak about it after the panel, we have an innovation challenge coming up at Sustainable Development Youth South Africa, where we give young people the opportunity to submit their ideas. And from there, we will then fund those ideas and to make it a reality. So that is also something that we as a network, we will be doing. Another thing as well is, as I spoke about it, education and SDG education as well. So we will be also doing workshops and taking these workshops not only at the university level, but also going into communities and conducting these workshops, because development is not only for university students or young people who are at university, but for young people in general, even those in communities who aren't part of higher learning and institutions. Thanks.
Yeah, so just keep the mic there.
Sure.
I want to bring something forward that you mentioned. I think is a very important point, which brings up the conversations of us working in silos. We're often guilty of that as institutions, that we work in one channel, the next bloke is in their own channel. It's like Formula One. And it's like a race. But in essence, I think the question here is, how do we collaborate? How do we collaborate with communities? How do we collaborate with the public sector? How do we collaborate with the third sector, the NGOs and so on? And how do we then ensure that, yes, we achieve collaboration as one, but then two, our collaboration is youth-led?
Sure. First of all is coming up with the vision. What are you trying to achieve? Sometimes people do not really engage, or organizations don't engage, because there's no clarity. So there needs to be clarity as to what are you contributing in this partnership, what is your expertise, and how you being part of the partnership will enhance and better this partnership and collaboration. So first thing is to make it clear as to what is the need that is being addressed. Also is continuously following up, getting organizations and different sectors on board. It's something that you need to do constantly over and over again. So it requires resilience to keep on pushing up until you find and up until you get everyone in one room. Also, collaboration is important and also a key thing when a young person is represented in any leadership structure of those organizations. Because one of the things that we have observed is we see young people are listened to, but there is no representation in organizations. We still find organizations that believe in traditional leadership models where, experienced people get the opportunity to lead, and young people are not given that opportunity by giving the explanation that they lack experience. But we need to trust young people. So organizations need to put trust in young people and see the value in them and put them on board in their leadership positions. So hopefully I've tried to answer your question.
Yeah, you're essentially painting something that is complex. And I think we acknowledge the sense that it's pretty difficult. So that's why we have these conversations. And Sianda, just a question around collaboration to you as well, but more specifically with the Trevor Noah Foundation and with a network like this one, with the South African chapter. I mean, what opportunities do you see there? And possibly, you can just speak freely, and some of the youth who are here will take heed to that, and maybe you could contribute to some of the things you might say here.
Sure, that's a tricky question. It's very loaded. I think the first thing I can think of is through our career guidance program, we work with matriculants that will soon be out of school youth, right? And I can just see the partnership where those matriculants can begin to tap into this network and begin to have their voices also being heard and begin to also explore what synergies are out there for them as well. Something about the Grace Match program that for us is we are passionate about opening up their eyes to, exposing them to careers that exist, right? And part of that exposure is understanding the landscape in its entirety. So the landscape of sustainability, the landscape of collaboration, the landscape of doing good in communities as well. And so that's one way I can think of the work that we do and the partnerships that we can, begin to leverage leaving here today, is to think of the youth that are leaving the high schools, how can they begin to tap into this network, and ultimately as well, the youth that are within our schools that are also Columba alumni can also begin to tap into that network. And what we're doing is a sort of a snowball effect. So it's not just 400 from here and 400 from there, but it's actually a growing number of youth that have been upskilled while they were in school, and then they continue to be upskilled while they're out of school as well. Did I miss the second part of your question?
No, I think you spoke to it.
Okay.
In the sense that we can have some of that collaboration with the students that are probably in matric and transitioning to learn, hey, I can go and study here and there, and I can pursue a career on this and that. So, we have some of the students here who I'm sure after this, you'll be welcome to chat to her how best you can connect with her to help some of the grade matric learners to support them. Maybe if you're studying a particular course, it would be great. It could even be a virtual session. It doesn't have to be in person.
So based on something that you had shared as well, Kamahano, is that how do we get the youth in our communities to know what's out there? Is we need to increase our visibility. We actually just have to go to them, right? It's not enough that you're saying that it's only ever when higher learning institutes are being presented to them that they can know that these opportunities exist. But I also want to challenge the SDSN network to say, please set up an activation tent somewhere in Ivory Park and get the youth to come and ask questions. Get the youth to come and tell you some of the things that they are facing. So when you begin to also program your work around sustainability, understand, as you're saying, the network, understand the people that you're talking to, right? Because this is a youth network. So increase your visibility on the ground so that it's also not intimidating. One of the challenges we face with youth is it feels so intimidating to have to raise your voice in an already existing structure. But if we start to break down those barriers, and that's what we essentially are aiming to achieve as an organization, is even through this program, we have career expos where we bring people in to ask the relevant questions. We begin to break down the mold and the fear and begin to bridge the gap between equitable access to all youth pathway opportunities and not just some. So I really want to challenge visibility. And also I see we have a lot of member institutions that are also universities. Please increase your visibility. I implore you, that is the only way we're going to have the youth that we need at the chairs that we need, in the boards that we need, saying the right things that we need. Until then, it's all good and well.
You, Melu, I want to bring you to the conversation. You've had the opportunity to witness, to see, to taste a youth-led sustainability innovation. So perhaps tell us something that you've witnessed that comes to mind.
I think Within my work within the development sector, but also the corporate sector as well. And I think initially through Kalamba, the amazing thing is that continually, as per, the cohorts that become part of the academy or the programs, they are then able to innovate an idea that is very much linked to their context. So within the different cohorts, they are able to innovate something on a, on that basis, given, the opportunity that's there. But on a much broader scale, I think youth innovation or youth sustainable innovation, I've noticed quite a key thing, which is there is no institutional trust. So youth don't trust institutions that are set in place to either be platforms of empowerment, of acceleration, of incubation, whatever it is within that spectrum of development. So there is no institutional trust. So we've seen it with, major tabloids that happened in the past years, like Nkosinathi Nkomo, the UCT student that created a water system innovation for Cape Town. And then at the end of it, nothing ever happened to it. So again, because we are digitally native youth, our issues or our accessibility to information is by observing what is happening when youth bring forward innovations to platforms that are supposed to either accelerate, incubate, or empower, or even just provide resource by virtue of funding or exposure. So that's the issue or the breakdown in actually wanting to foster youth innovation that is sustainable, because we don't trust the institutions with our ideas. Even in corporate spaces, now you have to, kind of wiggle your way in or find platforms where your ideas have to be accepted. So that's why in my consultancy work, I've shifted the conversation to say, with the NGOs, with the corporates, do you actually, do you watch TikTok? Because that's actually meet youth where they are. Watch TV shows if you want to understand more about human settlements, like shows like Kumbulekai. So it's actually meeting how youth are choosing to engage with the world, and then observing those tactics and being able to use those to be able to mobilize and lead that youth on the basis of how they already choose to engage and present their ideas on platforms like, digital platforms like TikTok, etc. So yeah, I think there is a great need to establish institutional trust, where institutions are also operating at a level of legitimacy, where we see that if you are in the business of youth empowerment and you get funds to empower youth, then the ratio of your employees within your institution need to be youth, because that means then you have employees who are youth who are solving for their counterparts and peers. So that allows for a more holistic and a robust ecosystem as you are designing a program or actually wanting to create platforms that welcome youth ideas. Yeah, thank you.
Interesting point you raised there about trust. So let me dig a little further if you don't mind. Because in essence, it really reflects a large part of our society, that people generally just don't trust each other. And when people do business together, you'll find that people like to do business with people they like because they just kind of trust them. So it's a very difficult thing to build, but I do possibly think storytelling is one of those ways to build that sense of trust. I wonder what you think about that.
I absolutely agree. Storytelling is, I think, an entry point into us building understanding, so that it's transparent, there's context, there's background, there's room to actually ask questions by virtue of the fact that you presented a story from A to B. There's a starting point, there is, the body of what the issue is, and then together you can conclusively then decide, okay, what do we do in that regard? So I think transparency, but also we want to see institutional legitimacy. That means there has to be a balance between the institution's input and output. If you're in the business, like I said, of youth development, youth have to be part of the principle of how you operate that institution. So I think institutional trust is built on institutions actually being legitimate, but also then us having storytelling, transparent conversations throughout the platforms that youth use today. Yeah.
No, that's very good. Want to move on to Marubini, just to talk to you a little bit around, when it comes to coordination, it is a mammoth task to do that with so many programs that you have at the UN, with a huge population of the youth. it can be, the details gets lost somewhere in between there. So with coordination, how best do we demystify, how best do we simplify, how best do we make sure that it's accessible in terms of like what we're offering the youth, and also in how the youth can offer us their support in contributing? Because I do think there's a bit of like a mismatch at times, and you'll find out people say, hey, don't you know that there is a library here at this community? They're like, no, I don't know about that. But it's like communication thing, So it's pretty difficult.
It's very difficult. I think as institutions, as a system, we don't talk to each other enough. And I think that's how you end up with projects that are similar in the same community with sometimes even the same funders. So we need to talk to each other more. I think we need to talk to young people a lot more and engage them to see how we can co-create some of these solutions together. I think coordination is very hard because it's taking everyone away from business as usual. A lot of us when we were younger, I don't know about you guys, but group work was hard. Nobody liked group work. And essentially coordination is now saying, yes, we know you're doing your other things, but now we want you to get inside group work. And it's tough. It's tough, and I think there's a part of it now with even what's happening geopolitically, for us to really reimagine the future we're trying to see for our communities, for our country, for the world. And I think at that reimagining position or point of reference is where we'll be able to come together better. Because a lot of people now are forced to move inwards, and I think we need to push people to move to see each other across the boundaries and lines where we may see ourselves as divided. And I think now is an opportune moment to really come together and say, how do we re-envision this place that we're trying to go to? We tried, obviously, the SDG goals. It's been around now. We're almost about 4 years left of implementation. Not enough progress has been made. There needs to be an enhanced acceleration around it. For the UN, there's something called the 6 transitions, which are pathways that have been outlined as critical in order for us to access Agenda 2030. Now, that is still going to require a lot of effort, a lot of coming together, a lot of coordination. And I think part of it, some of the pathways outlined around digital transformation, food systems. So it's really thinking about how do we align those trajectories, those ways in which we're seeing the future to where communities are, and bringing that co-creation element into it in order to achieve coordination. But it's a mammoth task.
Incredible. We've got a lot of questions coming through online as well, but I do appreciate the fact that we are on a quite tight schedule. But what I will do though is I will encourage the youth to come through after the event to connect with each of you. If you have ideas as they were speaking, perhaps you might have thought about something, how some of your work could support their initiatives. I think it would be great to network with them at the end of the session, but I will sort of cut it up at this point. We're going to speak the whole day if we could, but I know that folks are going to get home after this. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause for them sharing their insights. Incredible. So I want to call upon Ms. Priscilla to come forward once again. Sorry for the up and down, but just to talk to us a bit about the SA Innovation Challenge.
Okay. Now it's evening. Good evening, everybody. Vice Chancellor, you challenged SDSN South Africa to be bold in vision, inclusive in approach, and relentless in impact. Tonight, we rise to that challenge by launching an initiative that puts innovation in the hands of youth, the SDSN South Africa Youth Innovation Challenge. This is more than a competition. It's the birth of a movement where creativity meets impact, bold ideas become reality, and you, the next generation of leaders, shape a sustainable future. Innovation isn't just about gadgets or jargon. It's about solving real problems. It's about looking at the challenges around us with fresh eyes and daring to ask, what if we could change this? How might we do better? Whether you're a coder, a designer, a strategist, or simply someone with a bold vision, this is your moment. Because innovation doesn't happen in silos. It thrives where curiosity, collaboration, and courage collide. So what is the challenge? Over the next 6 months, teams at secondary schools and higher education institutions will develop scalable solutions to pressing sustainability challenges. And you won't be alone. We are working on providing you with the access to experts and workshops and a supporting community to refine your ideas. Who can join? We're calling all passionate collaborators. Diversity drives innovation. So we encourage teams with mixed skills, backgrounds, and perspectives. Here's an example of diversity. This challenge was born from an unlikely alliance. A social worker, me, a theologian, Kamachano, a senior systems analyst, Bonza, and Dr. Hussein Karakani, an alumnus ranked among the top 1% of global data scientists. And what did we have? An innovation challenge. This is proof that breakthroughs happen when diverse minds unite. Here's how it works. Because it's our first year, we have structured a challenge to ensure that we can support you effectively. For high schools, you have to be linked to one of our partner institutions, which is Kalamba Leadership or My Desk Global Foundation, and hopefully Sianda Trevor Noah Foundation. The teams will be comprised of 3 to 5 individuals, and you have to be between the ages of grade 10 to 12. For universities, you have to be linked to one of our member institutions. Can you go to the slide, Zanik, that shows the member institutions? Oh, I have a clicker. Wow. Okay. So they're the member institutions who are nonprofit organizations, and they're the universities. Why we say pending with University of Free State and Northwest University is because they are just waiting for their applications to be approved by Global. So you have to be linked to one of those institutions, and we will check. So at university level, there'll be 2 groups, one undergraduate and one for postgraduates. But the important thing is you cannot apply as an individual. You have to work in teams of 3 to 5. Sorry, Marubini, that group work comes in. For both groups, you have to be between the ages of 16 and 35 years old. All solutions must align with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2063, and the AU's Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. This isn't just a competition. It's a call to action, a launch pad for growth, impact, and leadership. Innovation challenges turn ideas into impact, build skills networks, accelerate progress toward a fairer, greener future. The challenge will culminate in a pitch session with a panel of esteemed judges. Prizes will be awarded to the top 3 in each category to support scaling the idea. The future isn't passive. It's built by those who dare to act. So to every young person here, your ideas matter. Your voice is needed. Your time to innovate is now. Let's make history together. Will your idea be the one that changes everything? Thank you.
Incredible. We are looking forward to that challenge, looking forward to seeing what comes out of the challenge. I think it'll be interesting to track some of those outcomes and we get to the end of the year and in the coming years, so truly excited. I want to invite a speaker who's going to join us virtually, all the way from Kenya. It's going to be Michael Kishon, who's joining us. He is a dynamic youth leader, a speaker and network coordinator at SDSN Kenya. He's an advocate for youth empowerment, gender equality, and climate action. Through his work with the UNFPA and various youth platforms, Michael has been at the forefront of training, mobilization, and advocacy across the African continent. So without further ado, let us tune in to hear what Michael has to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, very much for your introduction and also the welcome. Indeed, it has been a very, very much informative session from the speakers. And also the audience at large. I'm really inspired by the work in South Africa. It's a pleasure to speak to young, and I'm really glad and honored to see all of you. I can be able to look at the hall and see the many vibrant minds, the bright futures of Africa geared towards achieving Agenda 2030 and also Agenda 2063. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Kishoyan. I'm the network coordinator for SDSN Youth Kenya, and also a member of UNFPA Youth Advisory Panel here in Kenya. As you've heard, I am deep into gender equality and also climate action. And I have founded a community-based organization that is geared towards championing for gender equality, the rights of women and girls, in elimination of FGM and also gender-based violence. And we promote sexual reproductive health rights and also climate action. I'm glad to be a speaker today. I'll just be able to share some of the work that we've done here in Kenya to work together as Africa, work together as young people between Kenya and South Africa. So I'd love to start the presentation. I don't know if the IT can project the slides. Maybe you can let me know. Thank you so much. So my presentation is on SN Youth South Africa with a subtitle entitled, or maybe with a heading, Mobilizing the Next Generation for Sustainable Development. So, based on the title itself, From Vision to Impact, I have seen that we have a very vibrant and very, very much good vision and clear vision as SDSN South Africa. And so how are we going to do, or maybe what are we going to do so that we can scale this vision to make impact? And that is what we want to alleviate and also what we want to strategize and also push it forward. As mentioned by previous speakers, and I want to thank and recognize Priscilla for the good work that you've been doing and also for the good work that you've seen for you to work with the young people. And in 2022, the UN Resident Coordinator for Ghana, the then Charles Abani, he told me one thing when he came to Kenya. Young people are leaders of tomorrow, and tomorrow is now. So young leaders, we have all it takes for us to change and make the change that we want to see in the future and also as of now. Next slide, please. So we can say the growth and impact of SDSN Youth Kenya. We've been able to achieve some of, or maybe create some of impact, some impact in Kenya for young people. What I can say is I heard Marubini in the panel talking about youth advisory panel. So in SDSN Sustain, I'll be able to share about a group of young people drawn from different areas, different backgrounds, different careers, just to come and talk about sustainable development. In the Youth Action Group, we have youth who represent youth with disabilities. We have youth representing humanitarian settings, that is the areas hit with drought, conflicts like banditry, and also refugee camps. We also have young people representing marginalized groups. We have marginalized communities in Kenya, and we have been able to bring them on board because we do not want to leave anyone behind. We have also been able to expand partnerships across universities, civil society organizations, and also government agencies. As the SDSN Youth, we've been able to work with these entities just to push for sustainable development. As we speak, in Kenya, we have the Science Week. That is a global conference happening at the UN complex in Nairobi. And we have been able to send some of the young people from the Youth Action Group to represent us and also to network, because what we want to achieve is also to empower young people in matters networking opportunities. We've also been able to make young people drive action on the sustainable development at the grassroots levels and also policy levels. I've mentioned about the marginalized communities. And also last year, we were able to mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And we went to the grassroots levels, the grassroots communities as a youth action group, just to speak and talk to these communities on matters gender equality and also elimination of gender-based violence. Next slide. So the milestones that we've been able to make as the youth action, the SDSN Youth Kenya. In August 2024, we were able to appoint the youth action group that I've talked about. We are 33 in number, representing different areas. And then in October 2024, still, we took part in the Mazingira Day. In Kenya, we have Mazingira Day, which is the environmental day, whereby we just meet. It's a public holiday where all the citizens talk about environment conservation. And as the Youth Action Group under the SDSN Youth Kenya, we came up with a garbage monster, trying to tell the world, trying to tell the country what is the impact of garbage if we do not collect garbage. And we partnered with big organizations through the SDSN Kenya. We partnered with big organizations like Follow, AFAS, and also Safaricom, just to increase the impact and also get more people getting this information. Again, in November to December, we actively commemorated the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, just to engage the communities. We were able to reach out to over 1,000 people in a span of 16 days on matters information to do with gender equality and also elimination of gender-based violence. So currently, and since March up to now, we have been holding or maybe having the capacity building for youth-led organizations in Kenya. We are handling around, right now we have, in our database, we have around 40 youth-led organizations who are part of our capacity building program on matters to do with data collection and reporting, innovation, leadership, and also organizational structures. These are some of the topics that we saw it is good for us to empower these young people with, so that they can be able to create more impact in the communities that they serve. Next slide. Okay, as you can see, the photo there is a photo of some of the youth action group members during the talked about in October. But let us shift our focus on the youth action group. It's a dynamic team of driving thematic SDG initiatives. In the youth action group, we have young people with different four others on SDG to be able to link them when we need some engagements in specific diseases themselves. And also, we have advocacy, that one I've already talked about. And then the transformative projects, we've been able to have local climate action campaigns whereby youth have been able to be consulted in several platforms. We have also had, we have talked about the training that is happening. And soon we are launching and rolling out the SDGs Masterclass, so that we can also empower more young people on matters of sustainable development. We're also looking forward to empowering young people on digital advocacy. Through the SDSN Kenya, we are having dialogues with an AI hub in Nakuru, that is in Kenya, to train young people on AI for good. And so these are some of the digital advocacy that we are trying to empower the young people, because we're in the social media era, with the technology era, but at the same time, we have young people who are using this technology devices or maybe platforms in a negative way. So we are trying to educate young people to use AI So programs and also local partners. Next slide, please.
Apologies about the audio
Can you hear
quality.
me? Refreshed. This getting project.
Michael, can you still hear us? We're having difficulty hearing you. Apologies about the audio quality. We might have to sort of continue.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine.
You can
Michael,
hear me now?
well, can you hear me, Michael? We feel like we're not doing justice to the presentation you have and the work you've done and sort of like the network cutting off. So what I might suggest is that maybe you can share the slides. We'll share it to everybody in the room. Can we agree on that? Is that fine? Yeah, so it's not my decision, Michael. We collectively agreed on that. Yeah. Consultation and practice, co-creation and practice. All right, so apologies about that. Really what I was picking up was that there's a lot of action taking place in Kenya, and there's a lot of work that they're doing, and you're sort of like sharing from his heart what they've been learning and so on. So, yeah, so apologies about that. But we move on to our next speaker. Before we go to that, we also have an audience online that have also been sharing comments and sharing some of their thoughts. And one of the questions around the Innovation Challenge, and we will share a link to everybody. After this event, we'll share more information about how you can participate in the Innovation Challenge. So worry not, we'll be sending through that after the event. But over to our next speaker, who's going to be closing the program for us. It's Rachel Sakunza, who leads the SDSN Youth globally with a background in international relations and public policy. She's a champion for youth leadership, climate action, and education. One of the things that we've heard so far is around storytelling as well, being one of the pillars in which we can bridge the gap. So very excited to note that she's also quite the storyteller, and her advocacy has reached audiences worldwide. So ladies and gentlemen, let's lift the energy in the room and possibly give her a big warm round of applause.
Thank you so much, distinguished guests, panelists, and esteemed colleagues. Thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Raquel Armendariz Secunza. I lead SDSN's main initiative for young people, SDSN Youth, at a global level. And I am thrilled to join all of you today, unfortunately virtually, but still in spirit, to celebrate the official launch of SDSN Youth South Africa. First, I want to start by saying that I am very impressed with the lineup of speakers and panelists we had today, particularly with the panel. I found it very, very insightful. And I think it's also because as a foreigner, it's incredibly impressive to see the wealth of knowledge, passion, and commitment that is coming from South Africa. And it's truly inspiring to see the incredible progress being made, but also to witness the collective drive for change and for meaningful involvement of young people. So a very big congratulations to Priscilla and the whole organizing team who have been involved in organizing this. I also want to recognize that, as some of the fellow speakers have highlighted at the beginning, this network, this launch, and this initiative is part of a movement. And movements are not possible without collaboration. So the establishment of this youth network is something that has been on the works for some months now, and it's incredibly rewarding to see it become a reality. And of course, it wouldn't be possible without the people who have supported it. So I want to acknowledge them and their efforts, their vision, and their passion. A big congratulations and thank you goes to the network manager of SDSN South Africa, Ms. Priscilla Morley, and of course to our newly appointed network coordinator for SDSN Youth South Africa, Kamagano Setono. I think they are both exceptional leaders who embody the values of dedication, inclusivity, and innovation, and their commitment to advocating for a network that includes young people and puts them at the forefront of sustainable development is something that is truly sets the tone for what this network stands for and what SDSN and SDSN Youth stand for. Young people are a critical part of this global movement, and their voices, perspectives, and contributions are essential for shaping a sustainable future. The concept of leaving no one behind, which is often spoken about in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, is not just a slogan, it's a call to action. It challenges us to ensure that our policies, programs, and platforms are inclusive, equitable, and accessible to all, and especially for those who have been historically marginalized or underrepresented, which more than often is young people. It has been only recently that young people have started to take the center stage at the international conversations, and they are finally being recognized for their potential. Just a few months ago, as you may know, the United Nations and its member states celebrated the Summit of the Future and adopted the Pact of the Future. Among the 5 priorities that they presented in these initiatives, youth and future generations were highlighted as one of the key pillars for global action. This acknowledgement by member states worldwide and various stakeholders is a very powerful signal. Youth are no longer an afterthought in international policy discussions. They are now seen as crucial players in shaping the future. When it comes to South Africa, the importance of youth engagement cannot be overstated. I don't want to talk about the work that needs to be done and the potential because I think the panelists have already done so. But I was just looking at some data and I found out that in South Africa, there are currently 21 million young people. I was really surprised because if you take that into consideration, those are 21 million potential advocates for sustainable development, 21 million potential ideas on how to shape the future, and 21 million potential solutions on how to build a prosperous society. We cannot let these 21 million people not to be prepared for the future. We need to educate them, to provide them with the tools, the resources, and the skills necessary to build a sustainable development future. As a famous South African person once said, the future belongs to our youth. As some of us near the end of our political careers, young people must take over. They must seek and cherish the most basic condition for peace, namely unity in our diversity, and finding lasting ways for that goal. I'm sure that this person does not need an introduction because it was Nelson Mandela who spoke these words in 1998. And already by that time, more than 25 years ago, he recognized the crucial role of young people in shaping the future. Yes, many years have passed since, but the spirit of Mr. Mandela's words and the vision that we are united under today are the kind of vision that we need to build our societies. And that effort rests upon the shoulders of the youth. It is to young people who we must look for inspiration, for energy, and for the determination needed to create a better world. It is just through these statistics and this context that we understand why and how we need to establish youth networks like SDSN Youth South Africa, networks like SDSN, or networks like SDSN Youth. And for those unfamiliar with SDSN Youth, we were launched 10 years ago with a very simple mission: to empower young people in training, connecting them, and equipping them to be the change makers, to be the disruptors, and to lead the change. Our work is centered in 2 main areas. First, running programs that enable young people to create innovative, sustainable solutions. And second, building a global network that facilitates the implementation of these solutions. It is only by empowering youth and fostering a collaborative global community among countries, generations, and cultures that we can build a future grounded in shared values, mutual respect, and collective action. Together, we can tackle the challenges that lie ahead. We can create sustainable solutions that benefit us all and our planet. And we do all of this because we share a vision to cultivate the next generations of leaders in sustainable development. Young people are not the leaders of tomorrow, as they are regarded so often. They are already leading. And as it has already been mentioned, the older generations will pass, and we, the youngest, will remain to make decisions that will affect our future generations. This is why at SDSN Youth, we believe that having more youth networks and having more young people can help us understand the challenges and opportunities of the local contexts, can help us shape the leaders of their community. At SDSN Youth, we have created impact through several initiatives. We have climate accelerator programs in Nigeria. We provided students in the Mediterranean with workshops about food security. We are taking care of the environment in Bolivia. And just in the last year, I am very proudly announcing that we established 5 youth networks in the African continent. And now we are ready to implement similar activities here in South Africa through the work of an amazing leader. I know that as we work on new solutions, we'll be faced with challenges. After all, the demographic of young people is the most impacted by the decisions we are making. However, young people, as it has already been mentioned, they are also the most capable of driving innovative solutions forward. They understand the challenges of climate change, inequality, economic instability, and more. They have a unique perspective, a digital-first mindset, and the ability to think outside the box, which is exactly what we need in this current era. Through SDSN Youth and our networks, we are contributing to flipping the narrative, ensuring that youth are not just seen as recipients of aid programs, but they are active, empowered leaders and change makers. When it comes to South Africa, the fact that the network has made youth engagement one of their priorities for this year and for the upcoming years, it speaks volumes to how they recognize the advantage of having young voices present. It reflects their commitment to fostering innovative perspectives and ensuring that decision-making processes are inclusive and representative of future generations. As is in Youth South Africa, it is at a unique position to include young people to bridge the gap between the local and global action. The network will ensure that young people's voices are amplified, that opportunities for meaningful youth engagement are created, and that different communities are mobilized towards sustainable development. South Africa has shown the tremendous potential and commitment to the SDGs. And I am confident that with all of you collaborating with our newly appointed network coordinator, the country is going to keep improving. Kamagana understands the local challenges and the opportunities. And in his role as network coordinator, he will be crucial in fostering partnerships that bridge this gap. He will ensure that the initiatives and projects developed under the network, such as the Innovation Challenge, are tailored to specific needs of South African communities, while also being aligned with global sustainability efforts. I personally cannot wait to see what they achieve. So as this new journey starts, and as we continue to advocate for the journey that SDSN South Africa has opened, be reminded that it's not easy. There will be challenges, there will be setbacks and moments of doubt, but remember that every great moment in history started with individuals who refused to give up. Your persistence, your courage, and your dedication to sustainability will make the difference. The path might be tough, but the impact that you will create will be lasting and transformative. Today marks the beginning of a transformative journey. So as our new network coordinator and everyone supporting him embark on this path, I wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors. Embrace the opportunities ahead and always remember the immense power of your voice and action. Stay resilient and continuously learn from those around you. Your potential knows no bound, and I am excited to see the remarkable impact that you will create. So let us all come together virtually from here, all the way from Spain, to celebrate this significant milestone and continue to support, uplift, and empower youth to become the change makers our world so desperately needs. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you so much to Rachel Secunda, who spoke so well about the fact that we are confirming what we've heard from all the other speakers, that we are walking in song and we are certainly working in concert. So that's very encouraging. Just want to find out if you all had a good time tonight. Are you sure about that? Have you had a good time? Yeah? I've really had a good time. I've enjoyed listening to the conversations, and I'm glad that you've had the similar feedback. And also to everybody that's been joining online, we appreciate you joining online, and thank you for some of the comments. We did see them. We didn't get to everything, but we really do appreciate it. I must say a few thank yous. So with every event, and let me rather say with every successful event, like this one, there's a few people that you got to thank. There's a lot of people that work behind the scenes. Firstly, I just want to thank our Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Francis Peterson, who is the captain of our ship. Thank you for gracing the occasion and also for your support, because we know that you really believe in this and you're not just showing up because it's a good thing to do, but this means a lot to you. So thank you for that. I also want to thank the LLC members of our advisory board who are here, and some of them have also joined us virtually. So thank you for joining and making this event special. I also want to thank the SDSN SA manager, Priscilla. Thank you so much for the work that's gone behind the scenes. Please give a round of applause. She hasn't done that alone. She's done that with members of the EMS faculty through the Alberta Leadership Institute. Some of them are here. Some of them are also not present, but in absentia, we also want to thank those who are not here. So we appreciate every single bit of work that's gone into it. I also want to thank the member institutions in general, but in particular the Keynote College, as well as CPUT. They also had a similar launch like we're having now today. So we also thanking them for supporting us in solidarity as well. So we're excited that we can be on this journey with other partners and that we are not walking in isolation. And I also want to thank you, right? I want to thank each and every single one of you for coming. I want to just ask the young people in the room to give us a big woo-woo. They've been awfully quiet today, yeah? But we're excited to connect with you outside. We've got refreshments in the dining hall. So my little challenge to you, I know that Priscilla's got a challenge that she mentioned. She'll be sending you an email about that. But my little challenge to you is that just meet one or two people that you haven't seen today, one or two people that you don't know. Just introduce yourself. Hey, my name is Lennox, or whatever your name is, and what you do and how can we collaborate. I think that will be pretty good. Let's enjoy the evening together, and thank you so much once more for joining us.